Something just happened to you in this moment, even though your eyes can't yet see the full scale of what was moved. You've been feeling like you're living in a time of concealment, where doors that once opened now seem locked by an invisible hand, and your name, which used to be called, now rests in a deep silence. I came to tell you the truth you haven't found anywhere else. Your silence is not a forgetting, it's a preparation. The concealment you're experiencing right now is the seal that protects your ascent. You weren't left behind. You were placed in a place of restoration so that when your name is called, your structure will already be ready to sustain the glory that is coming. In this conversation, you're going to recognize the 4 clear signs that show you've entered your season of strategic retreat. You're going to understand why the feeling of invisibility is actually your greatest protection against distractions that would delay your purpose. And before we move on to the diagnosis of your root cause, I'm going to give you the key of alignment that will change your perception of everything you've been carrying. Stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to reveal to you about your name is the answer you've been crying out for in your moments of solitude. You've noticed that your surroundings have changed frequency. People who once walked beside you now seem to be speaking a language you no longer understand. You've been feeling an inexplicable urgency, a restlessness that isn't anxiety, but a kind of readiness the body feels before a major shift. Sometimes you catch yourself looking at the clock at precise moments, feeling like there's a countdown no one else perceives. This invisibility you feel, this social distance, this feeling of being a stranger in your own circle, isn't a wrong turn. It's the isolation of the strategist. It's the time when heaven silences the external voices so you can finally hear your own inner voice, the one that was silenced by years of other people's expectations. You realize your tiredness isn't a lack of energy, but the weight of armor you no longer need to wear. What you're living through isn't abandonment, it's a silent calibration for an upgrade. Your name is being prepared to rise, and for that to happen, your essence needed to be cleansed of everything that was only appearance. Attention! You need to prepare yourself now. I have prepared material for those who doubt their own calling from God and still do not have confirmation. Are you one of the chosen? We'll give you that clarity. These are the 7 signs of the language of the calling, marks of God in the story of every chosen one, so you can reread your story and recognize the purpose sealed over you before the foundation of the world. Stop calling coincidence what is actually a calling. Stop silencing the sacred restlessness. Stop postponing the answer you feel. Your window is closing, and a chosen one who does not recognize the calling does not walk in purpose. More than 10,000 people have already read the 7 signs and received the conviction they had been seeking for years. They were just like you. They felt something no one understood. They lived in silent doubt, and they discovered it was real. And it had a name. The offer is open only this month. Access the link in the pinned comment now before doubt steals another year from your calling. Only appearance. Take a deep breath now, because what I'm about to say next requires you to recognize your place in this journey. If at least one of these signs touched you, if your soul recognized the weight of this isolation as a preparation, type the number 1111 in the comments. Your fingers typing those numbers are your spirit confirming the alignment that is happening right now in your invisible plane. It's the recognition that the waiting time has ended and the starting signal is being given. Type the number 1111 and come back to me. Beneath this feeling of being hidden, there's a pattern you've been operating in for years without realizing it. You've been showing up for audiences that were never interested in hearing the truth of your soul. You've been trying to force open doors that were designed to be opened only by an invitation you didn't yet have the authority to receive. It's like you were trying to pick fruit from a tree that was still developing its root system. While you were worried about what people saw on the outside, what really mattered was happening underground. Your growth has been subterranean. It's a garden no one sees, a blooming that happens in the darkness, where the pressure of the earth only serves to make your stem stronger and your root deeper. You weren't stagnant, you were being fixed in the soil of your truth. Every time you felt forgotten, a new layer of purpose was being woven inside you. The ship isn't motionless because the voyage is over, but because the hull is being reinforced to sail waters you've never crossed before. You aren't the same as before, and the world you'll find when the concealment ends isn't the same one you left. Your preparation was done in secret, away from the gaze, away from the criticism, away from the comparison that stole your peace. The root that grows in the dark is the only one that sustains the weight of the tree when the storm comes. Now your root is deep enough, your inner courtyard is organized. What was done in the hidden now cries out to be revealed in the light. And I want you to feel this movement, this energy coming from the inside out, transforming your perception of who you are. You now carry the clarity that the delay you felt wasn't a denial, but a strategic postponement. Your waiting pattern wasn't a failure of execution, but a preservation of energy for the moment when your harvest would require a strength you didn't yet possess. You operated like someone trying to carry a massive crop with empty hands, mistaking your impatience for a lack of opportunity. The hidden cause of this feeling of invisibility has always been the need for you to become the vessel capable of sustaining what is coming, without breaking under the weight of the blessing itself. The underground garden isn't a place of punishment, it's a nursery of purposes. While the surface only saw silence, the earth beneath your feet was being prepared to sustain a blooming that doesn't depend on human approval. It's a growth that happens in the quiet, where the pressure of the soil shapes your fiber, where the moisture of the secret feeds your essence, and where time isn't measured in clocks, but in depth of root. You weren't being buried, you were being planted. And the plant that grows too fast in the summer sun, without first anchoring itself deeply in the darkness, is the first to fall when the wind blows. You, however, are being forged to stand. Your root system is now vast, branched, and impossible to uproot. The conversations that didn't happen, the doors that didn't open, the plans that had to be aborted, all of it was the earth shifting so you couldn't move forward before you were ready. If something inside you just aligned with this truth, if the image of a garden growing in the dark finally makes sense as a description of your own process, type the words "I am ready" in the comments. Let the recognition of this readiness seal the place where doubt used to live. The act of typing those words makes the witness permanent in your own life record. Type it and come back to me. Now, the solution to everything you've been carrying is no longer a race, but a softening. The return to your essence doesn't require effort. It requires surrender. It's stopping trying to force the door that is already unlocked, waiting for your gentle touch. When you understand that your concealment was an act of protection, your nervous system calms, and the acceleration happens not by your sweat, but by your alignment. There's nothing to fix, there's only something to harvest. You realize, finally, that the waiting time served to clear your vision, so that when the light finally falls on your path, you can see the exact opportunity your name was already engraved on. Let this stillness, this certainty that you are a project well cared for by the divine, guide your next steps, because what is being revealed now isn't something new. It's the manifestation of that seed you always carried and that has finally found the fertile soil of your awakened consciousness. Something just happened to you in this moment. Maybe you don't have words for it yet, but something inside you moved, and I came to tell you what it was. You've been trying harder than the people around you, and still the door hasn't opened. There's a reason. Hidden behind every day of apparent invisibility, there's a preparation. You've been carrying a question that no one around you has been able to answer, and now you're going to hear the answer. Until the end, you're going to recognize the signs that have been appearing in your life and what they really mean. You're going to understand the one pattern that has been blocking what you're looking for. And before I finish, There's a declaration I'm going to speak directly over your life, and I believe it's the reason this message reached you right now. You've been feeling a sudden wave of emotion with no apparent cause. Conversations that used to be normal now feel empty, and for weeks you've been waking up at the same hour in the middle of the night. If at least one of these signs touched you, if your shoulders dropped at some point in the last few minutes, type the number 1111 in the comments. Your fingers typing those numbers are your spirit saying yes. It's the smallest agreement, but it's real. Type 1111 and come back to me. What you've been living through isn't a wrong turn. It's an underground garden. While people up above chase the quick fruit, your roots are being deepened. The pattern you've operated in until now was trying to bloom before your time, forcing a growth the earth couldn't yet support. But God's hiding place isn't a prison, it's a greenhouse. If something inside you just sealed itself, if the revelation that your concealment was a preparation finally landed in a place you can't explain, type the words, "I am ready" in the comments. Let the recognition seal where it just landed. Type it and come back to me. Take a deep breath with me. Let it settle in the part of you that has waited the longest to hear this. If something in this message confirmed what your spirit already knew, let your like be your wordless amen. Not as a metric, but as an agreement that what was named here was named correctly. There's someone in your life who needs this exact message right now. Someone who has been trying harder than everyone around them and still sees the door closed. Someone who has been quiet in a way no one around them can explain. Someone whose face just appeared in your mind while I was speaking. Send this to that person, not as a recommendation but as a delivery, the same way it reached you by notice. Before this ends, type the words "I am the chosen one" in the comments. Not as a wish, not as a hope, but as a confirmation. The agreement that has been forming in silence between heaven and your hearing is an agreement you're going to live from for the rest of this season. Type it slowly, let your fingers do what your spirit is already doing. You carry a question that no one around you has been able to answer, and the fact that you made it here isn't an accident of the road, but the conclusion of a cycle of waiting. You've been trying harder than the people around you, working behind the scenes while the world applauded those who had barely started, and still the door seemed locked for too long. There's a reason. You were hidden to be preserved. You're going to understand the pattern that blocked your path, and before it ends, we'll have the confirmation that will seal what is about to open in your life. The signs are clear for those who have learned to observe their own soul. You've been waking up repeatedly at the same hour in the middle of the night, as if a call were being emitted exactly when the rest of the world sleeps. You feel a change in frequency in conversations that used to feel natural, but now feel empty, devoid of the truth you're seeking today. And there's something else. Numbers, sequences, repetitions that jump out at you in moments of hesitation. It's the smallest agreement, but it's real. What you're living now isn't a delay, it's an alignment. Your operational pattern has been that of someone pulling ropes that were no longer attached to anything, trying to keep alive a structure that had already fulfilled its purpose. You confused exhaustion with faithfulness, thinking the weight you carried was the price of your calling. But the truth is, you were operating on a survival frequency, while the plan for you required a frequency of rain. Picture an underground garden. While the surface seems dry and forgotten, deep down, the roots are intertwining, strengthening the foundation that will sustain what is coming. You weren't stagnant. You were putting down roots in a soil no one else knows. If something inside you just sealed itself, if the image of this invisible growth landed in a place you can't explain, type the words "I am ready" in the comments. Type it and come back to me. The solution isn't to do more. The solution is to surrender to the process of coming into the light. You don't need to build your ascent. You need to stop resisting the unveiling that has already begun. The hiding place served to forge your character away from the distractions of men. Now, the time of harvest draws near, and what was cultivated in the hidden will manifest as undeniable authority. There's no more need to prove anything to anyone. Your presence, refined in silence, will speak louder than any word you've ever spoken. Take a deep breath. Release the expectations of a world that never understood your nature, and accept that your name is being called by the one who truly matters. You are being prepared to occupy a place that was reserved before you even began to walk. What was hiding you was your greatest protector, and now the door opens with the precision of a spiritual clock. What you felt as a delay was, in fact, the preservation of your moment to shine. Many times, human impatience tries to force a flower to open before spring, but what is eternal doesn't follow the calendar of men. There's a harvest frequency that is only reached when the silence becomes absolute. While you wondered why recognition seemed so distant, the universe was working on the invisible architecture of your revelation. Imagine that your purpose were a seed of an ancient tree. It can't grow too fast, or its fibers would be too weak to support the weight of its own shade. Your concealment wasn't a punishment, it was a forge. Every day you went unnoticed by those chasing the spotlight was a day of strengthening your internal structure, and now that structure is ready. Notice that your perception has changed. The conversations that used to drain your energy now pass through you without touching your essence. You've realized that the external demands for validation no longer carry the weight they once did. This is proof that your identity is no longer anchored in applause, but in the certainty of who you became during the time you were out of everyone's sight. There's a clarity that only arises when we stop trying to explain who we are to those who don't have ears to hear us. You've stopped being a piece trying to fit into someone else's board and have become the architect of your own path. In this instant, your connection to what is true becomes unshakable. Look at your journey with gratitude, not for what you achieved, but for what you survived while keeping your integrity intact. Your walk is a testimony of silent resilience. While many lost themselves in appearances, you found yourself in the core of your truth. That's the difference of someone chosen for a greater purpose. Your name, once whispered only in the shadows of doubt, begins to echo on the frequency of fulfillment. It's as if a veil has been removed, not just from your eyes, but from the perception of the world around you. Your resonance is what validates the truth. Think now of someone who, like you, has been living this process of emptying for filling. The face of that person just appeared in your mind while I was speaking. Send this to them, not as a recommendation, but as a delivery. The care you have for others is the seal of your spiritual maturity. Type it slowly. Let your fingers do what your spirit is already doing. You've felt the weight of the silence these last times, haven't you? Something just happened to you in this instant, a change that common words can't describe, but that your soul recognizes as a call. What you're living isn't abandonment, it's a strategic concealment. You've been trying harder than everyone around you, trying to open doors that seem locked from the inside, and frustration has been your silent companion. But there's a reason for this isolation. You're being prepared for an ascent no one saw coming. By the end of this conversation, you're going to recognize the clear signs that your waiting time is over. You're going to understand the hidden pattern that was blocking your progress. And above all, you're going to receive the confirmation that justifies every desert you crossed. You've noticed things others ignore. Maybe you've woken up repeatedly at the same hour in the middle of the night, or maybe you've seen repeated numbers appear in moments of deep reflection. These aren't coincidences. They are calibration marks. Your life is being adjusted to a new frequency. The pattern that operated in your life until now was one of excessive effort, the attempt to prove yourself to an audience that was never paying attention. You got tired of pulling ropes that were no longer attached to anything. But understand, this wasn't a mistake. It was a necessary cleansing. Picture an underground garden. While the surface seems dry and forgotten, beneath the earth the roots are expanding, searching for water, strengthening the structure that will sustain the fruit to come. Your concealment is that garden. You weren't forgotten. You were kept so your growth would be solid, not just apparent. What happens in the shadow is what sustains what shines in the light. Your identity is being rewritten in the silence. The voice they tried to silence in you back then, the inner child that was put to sleep for fear of judgment, all of it is starting to pulse again. If something inside you just sealed itself, if the metaphor of the garden landed in a place you can't explain, type the words "I am ready" in the comments. Let the recognition settle where it just landed. Type it and come back to me. The solution isn't to do any more, it's to be. Stop trying to force the route. What you're looking for is moving toward you with the same intensity you were searching for out there. Your stillness now is your greatest tool for acceleration. When you stop fighting against time, time starts working for you. It's a return to your axis, to your essence, to the place where you know exactly who you are, regardless of what the world out there says about your value. Welcome this state of readiness, like welcoming a gentle breeze after a long journey in the heat. You are exactly where you should be. The strength of your harvest doesn't depend on what you've accumulated in your hands, but on the depth of the roots. You've sunk into patience. Many people despair when they see the closed door, thinking the delay is a punishment, when in truth it's a shelter. It's as if life were hiding you from a path that couldn't contain the magnitude of what you've become. The concealment in this instant functions as a cocoon for the metamorphosis your spirit is already living. You aren't stagnant. You are accumulating pressure, maturity, and substance. What once seemed empty now begins to reveal itself as a reserve space where your true essence is being polished before the great unveiling. Not as a metric, as an agreement that what was named here was named correctly. Send this to that person, not as a recommendation, as a delivery, the same way it reached you, by notice. Not as a wish, not as a hope, as a confirmation. The journey you've been through isn't a wrong turn, but a necessary refinement your soul was already requesting long before you understood the weight of these choices. When your name is called, it won't be by merit of external effort or a frantic search for approval, but by the silent solidity you built while you were hidden. There's a force, an invisible structure organizing itself around you in this very moment, preparing the ground so your next step finds no resistance, but rather an open path. What you lived in isolation isn't abandonment. It's a strategy of divine protection, so your essence would be preserved from contaminations that hindered your full manifestation. Many times your restlessness was born precisely from this rush to be seen, to have the world recognize the light you carry, forgetting that the purest gold is forged in the darkness of the earth. The recognition you seek isn't something you ask for. It's something that becomes undeniable when your presence reaches full maturity. Take a deep breath. Release the control that still binds you to the need to justify every move, because your life now enters a cycle where clarity replaces doubt. What was hidden, the purpose that seemed distant, begins to align with your speech, with your gaze, and with your daily walk. You are committed, you are sent, you are being led. Right now, all over the world, other people are receiving this same recognition and awakening to the same silent truth that dwells in your being. You are part of a movement that doesn't announce itself with noise or display, and it's precisely because of this discreet and profound nature that what you live is unshakable and real. Attention! You need to prepare yourself now. I have prepared material for those who doubt their own calling from God and still do not have confirmation. Are you one of the chosen? We'll give you that clarity. These are the 7 signs of the language of the calling, marks of God in the story of every chosen one, so you can reread your story and recognize the purpose sealed over you before the foundation of the world. Stop calling coincidence what is actually a calling. Stop silencing the sacred restlessness. Stop postponing the answer you feel. Your window is closing, and a chosen one who does not recognize the calling does not walk in purpose. More than 10,000 people have already read the 7 signs and received the conviction they had been seeking for years. They were just like you. They felt something no one understood. They lived in silent doubt, and they discovered it was real. And it had a name. The offer is open only this month. Access the link in the pinned comment now before doubt steals another year from your calling.